Hi guys, this is Allison from Allylat Creations. How are you? Please hit that thumbs up or the like button, share, subscribe if you haven't done so already. And if you get anything from my work, a connected dot, an epiphany, a mind blown moment, a mushroom cloud moment, a new book to read, a new author to explore, please consider supporting my work. All the links are at the bottom of the description. I can't put this book down, and it's a problem because I had a busy day. And so far, this is like blowing the first book out of the water. Besides me having to draw and do fun stuff, artistic fun. Today, I captured little Thor and Morgan having an interaction, but it wasn't the interaction that I had the other day where she was hissing and puffing out, and it was hilarious, even though it's not funny on the cat's end. She's defending her damn home. But I got a little interaction. I made a short of it. Go check it out. I don't know how much longer she has left. It's getting a little on the bad side. She's very dehydrated. I've increased her IV treatments. So I'm trying to get much enjoyment out of her as possible. So go check it out. Co-host number 1, my little gangster familiar. Okay, I'm just setting up my screen, guys. So we're seriously halfway through, almost halfway. No, we're more than halfway through the first volume of The Secret Doctrine by Blavatsky. There's addendums. So I think I want to say we're close to the last chapter of the regular book. And this one shall be very interesting. And I have to adjust because it's so small, and my eyes, I need glasses, I need teeth, I need glasses, I need so many things. Don't we all? Like, I don't know, like, I'm gonna say this. My teeth have been a problem since I was in high school. I had my bridge put in high school. After my braces came off, there was a shit ton of damage from braces. And they didn't have that Invisalign thing yet. So I'm sure my parents would have went that route. But the braces really killed my teeth. And then I got RA, and then it just like made everything 25 times worse. And then maybe the last 5 years, my left eye is like long sight, meaning like I can't see short distance. It's fuzzy. Not that I can't see, I could see, but fuzzy. And then sometimes when I'm reading, it's weird. Anywho. But what I'm saying is, like, as you get older, everything starts falling apart. But I've had this since I was young. It's just getting worse. Sort of. Anywho. The 4 elements. Metaphysically and esoterically, there is but one element in nature, and at the root of it is the deity. And the so-called 7 elements, of which 5 have already manifested and asserted their existence, are the garment, the veil of that deity, direct from the essence whereof comes man. Whether physically, psychically, mentally, or spiritually considered, 4 elements only are generally spoken of in later antiquity, 5 admitted only in philosophy. for the body of ether is not fully manifested yet, and its noumenal is still the omnipotent Father, Aether, the synthesis of the rest. But what are these elements, whose compound bodies have now been discovered by chemistry and physics to contain numberless sub-elements, even the 60 and 70 of which no longer embrace the whole number suspect? Let us follow their evolution from the historical beginnings. At any rate, the four elements were fully characterized by Plato when he said that they were that which composes and decomposes the compound bodies. Hence, cosmolatry was never, even in the worst aspect, the fetishism, which adores or worships the passive external form and matter of any object, but look either to the noumenum therein, fire, air, water, earth, or but the visible garb, the symbols of the informing invisible souls or spirits, the cosmic gods to whom worship was offered by the ignorant and simple, respectful recognition by the wiser, and their turn the phenomenal subdivisions of the noumenal elements were informed by the elementals, so-called the natural nature spirits of lower grades. In the theogony of Moshe's, something like that, we find ether first and then the air, the two principles from which Ulam, the intelligible God, the visible universe of matter, is born. In the Orphic hymns, the Eros, Phanes, evolves from the spiritual egg, which the ethereal winds impregnate, wind being the spirit of God, who is said to move in ether, brooding over the chaos, the divine idea. In the Hindu Katkopishad, Purusha, the divine spirit already stands before the original matter, from whose union springs the great soul of the world. Mahatma Brahman, the spirit of life, these later appellations being again identical with the universal soul, or anima mundi, the astral light of the Thurgarists and Kabbalists being its last and lowest division. The elements of Plato and Aristotle were thus the incorporeal principles attached to the four great divisions of our cosmic world, and it is with justice that Kreuzer defines those primitive beliefs as a species of magism, a psychic paganism, and a deification of potencies. Deification, again, idolatrize words, I can't see well. A spiritualization which placed the believers in a close community with those potencies. So close indeed that the hierarchies of these potencies or forces have been classified on a graduated scale of 7, from the ponderable to the imponderable. They are secondary, not as an artificial aid to facilitate their comprehension, but in their real cosmic graduation, from their chemical or physical to their purely spiritual composite. Gods with the ignorant masses, gods independent and supreme, demons with the fanatics, who, intellectual as they often may be, are unable to understand the spirit of the philosophical sentence in plurius unum. With the Hermetic philosopher, they are forces relatively blind or intelligent according to which of the principles in them he deals with. It required long millenniums before they found themselves, in our cultural age, finally degraded into simple chemical elements. At any rate, good Christians, and especially the biblical Protestants, ought to show more reverence for the four elements if they would show any for Moses. For the Bible manifests the consideration of mystic significance in which they were held by the Hebrew lawgiver on every page of the Pentateuch. The tent, which contained the Holy of Holies, was a cosmic symbol sacred in one of its meanings to the elements, the four cardinal points, and ether. Josephus shows it built in white, the color of ether, and this explains also why in the Egyptian and the Hebrew temples, according to the Clemens Alexandrinus, a gigantic curtain supported by 5 pillars separated the sanctum sanctorum, now represented by the altar in Christian churches, wherein the priests alone were permitted to enter from the part accessible to the profane. By its 4 colors, the curtain symbolizes the 4 principal elements and signified and the knowledge of the divine that the 5 senses of men can enable men to acquire with the help of the 4 elements. In Corey's ancient fragments, one of the Chaldean oracles expresses ideas about the elements and ether in language singularly like that of the unseen universe, written by 2 eminent scientists of our day. It states that, quote, from ether have come all things, and to it all will return, that the images of all things are indelibly impressed upon it, and that it is the storehouse of the germs or of the remains of all visible forms, even ideas. It appears as if this case strangely collaborates our assertion that whatever discoveries may be made in our days, we will be found to have been anticipated by many thousand years by simple-minded ancestors. End quote, Isis Unveiled. Whence came the 4 elements and the Malcham of the Hebrews? They have been made to merge by a theological sleight of hand on the part of the rabbis and the later fathers of the church into Jehovah, but their origin is identical with that of the cosmic gods of all other nations. Their symbols, whether born on the shores of the Oxus or on the burning sands of Upper Egypt or in the wild forests, weird and glacial, which cover the slopes and peaks of the sacred snowy mountains of Thessaly, or again in the pampas of America, their symbols, we repeat, when traced to their source, are even one and the same, whether Egyptian or Pelasgian, Aryan or Semitic. The genus Loki, the local god, embraced in its unity all nature, but not especially the 4 elements any more than one of their creations, such as a tree, rivers, mounts, or stars. The genus Loci, a very late afterthought of the last subrace of the 5th root race, when the primitive and grandiose meaning have become nearly lost, was ever the representative in his accumulative titles of all his colleagues. It was the god of fire, symbolized by thunder as Jove, or Agni, the god of water, symbolized by the fruitful bowl, or some sacred river or fountain as Varuna, Neptune, the god of air, manifesting in the hurricane and tempest as Vayu, and Indra, the god or spirit of the earth, who appeared in earthquakes like Pluto, Yama, and some others. These were the cosmic gods, ever synthesizing all in one, as found in every cosmogony or mythology. Thus, the Greeks had their Danonian Jupiter, who included in himself the 4 elements and the 4 cardinal points, and who was recognized, therefore, in old Rome under the pantheistic title Jupiter Mundus, and who now in modern Rome has become the Deus Mundus, the one mundane god who is made to swallow all others in the latest theology by the arbitrary decision of his special ministers. As gods of fire, air, water, they were celestial gods. As gods of the lower region, they were infernal deities, the latter adjective applying simply to the earth. They were spirits of the earth under their respective names of Yama, Pluto, Osiris, the lord of the lower kingdom, etc., etc. And their tellurial character proves it significantly. The ancients knew of no worse abode after death than the Kamaluka, the limbus on this earth. If it is argued that the Dondonian Jupiter was identified with Adonis, the king of the subterranean world, and Dis, or the Roman Pluto, and the Dionysus Cynthios, the subterranean, wherein, according to Kraser, oracles were rendered, then it will become the pleasure of the occultist to prove that both Adonis and Dionysus are the base of the Adonai, or Jubro Adonai, as Jehovah is called in the Codex Nazaris. Thou shalt not worship the Son, who is named Adonai, whose name is also Kadush and El, and also Lord Bacchus. Baal Adonis of the Sods, or mysteries of the pre-Babylonian Jews, became the Adonai by the Masorah, the later vowel Jehovah. Hence, the Roman Catholics are right. All these Jupiters are the same family, but Jehovah has to be included therein to make it complete. Jupiter Eros, or Pan, the Jupiter Ammon, and the Jupiter Bel Moloch are all correlations in one with the Jubro Adonai, because they are all one cosmic nature. It is that nature and power which create the specific terrestrial symbol and the physical and material fabric of the latter, which proves the energy manifesting through it as eccentric. Pause. To all my Keys of Enoch friends, to all my OASP friends, Blavatsky has a huge point here. Huge. Especially the understanding of Adonai. It's satanic. Bel Moloch. Go look that up if you're unaware of what that thing is. Moving on. For primitive religion was something better than simple preoccupation about physical phenomena, as remarked by Schilling, and principles more elevated than we modern Sadducees know of, were hidden under the transparent veil of much and such merely natural divinities as thunder, the wind, and rain. The ancients knew and could distinguish the corporeal from the spiritual elements in the forces of nature. The fourfold Jupiter as the four-faced Brahma, the aerial, the fulgurant, the terrestrial, and the marine god, the lord and master of the four elements, may stand as a representative for the great cosmic gods of every nation, while passing power over the fire in Hephaestos, Vulcan, over the sea to Poseidon, Neptune, and over the earth to Pluto, Adonis. The aerial Jove was all these, for ether from the first had preeminence over and was the synthesis of all the elements. Tradition points to a grotto, a vast cave in the deserts of Central Asia, whereinto light pours through its four seemingly natural apertures or clefts, placed crossways at the four cardinal points of the place. From noon till an hour before sunset, the light streams in of four different colors, as of red, blue, orange, gold, and white, owing to some either natural or artificial prepared conditions of vegetation and soil. The light converges in the center around the pillar of white marble with the globe on it, which represents our earth. It is named the Grotto of Zarathustra. It sounds so familiar. When included under the arts and sciences of fourth race, the Atlanteans, the phenomenal manifestation of the four elements justly attributed by the believers in cosmic gods, to the intelligent interference of the latter, assumed a scientific character. The magic of the ancient priests considered in those days in addressing their gods in their own language. The speech of the men of the earth cannot reach the Lord's. Each must be addressed in the language of his respective element. Is a sentence which will be shown pregnant with meaning. The Book of Rules cited adds, as an explanation of the nature of that element language, it is composed of sounds, not words, of sounds, numbers, and figures. He who knows how to blend the three will call forth the response of the superintending power, the regent god of the specific element needed. Thus, this language is that of incantations, or the manvatras, as they are called in India, sound being the most potent and efficient magic agent, and the first of the keys which opens the door of communication between mortals and the immortals. He who believes in the words and teachings of St. Paul has no right to pick out from the latter those sentences only that he chooses to accept, to the rejection of others. And St. Paul teaches most undeniably the existence of cosmic gods and their presence among us. Paganism preached a dual and simultaneous evolution, creation spiritualum ac mundinum, as the Roman Church has it ages before the advent of the Roman Church. Exoteric phraseology has changed a little with respect to divine hierarchies, since most palmy days of paganism are idolatry. Names alone have changed along with the claims which have now become false pretenses. For when Plato put in the mouth of the highest principle, Father Ether, or Jupiter, these words, for instance, the gods of the gods, of whom I am the maker, as I am the father of all their works. He knew the spirit of the sentence as fully we respect as St. Paul did when saying, for though there be that are called gods, whether in heaven or in earth, as they be gods many and lords many. Both knew the sense and the meaning of what they put forth in such guarded terms. Says Sir W. Grove, F.R.S., speaking of the correlation of forces, the ancients, when they witnessed a natural phenomenon, removed the ordinary analogies and unexplained by any mechanical action known to them, refer to it a soul, a spirit, or a pre-natural power. Air and gases were also at first deemed spiritual, but subsequently they became invested with a more material character, and the same word spirit were used to signify the soul or a gas. The very word gas from Geist or ghost or spirit affords us an instance of the gradual transmutation of a spiritual into a physical conception. This is the great man of science in his preface to the 5th edition of Correlation of Physical Forces considers as the only concern of extract science, which has no business to meddle with the causes. Cause and effect, he explains, are therefore in their abstract relation to these forces words solely of convenience. We are told unacquainted with the ultimate generating power of each and all of them, and probably shall even remain so. We can only ascertain the norma of these actions. We must humbly refer their causation to one omnipresent influence, and contact ourselves with the studying their effects and developing by experiment their mutual relations. As policy once accepted and the system virtually admitted in the above quoted words, namely the spirituality of the ultimate generating power, it would be more than illogical to refuse to recognize this quality, which is inherent in the material elements, or rather in their compounds, as present in the fire, air, water, or earth. The ancients knew these powers so well that while concealing their true nature under various allegories for the benefit or the detriment of the uneducated rabble, they never departed from the multiple object in view while inverting them. They contrived to throw a thick veil over the nucleus of truth concealed by the symbol but they never tried to preserve the latter as a record for future generations, sufficiently transparent to allow their wise men to discern the truth behind the fabulous form of the glyph or allegory. They are accused of superstition and crudity. These ancient sages, and thus by those very nations which learned in all the modern arts and sciences, cultured and wise in their generation, accept to this day as their one living and infinite God, the anthropomorphic Jehovah of the Jews. What were some of the alleged superstitions? Hazad believed, for instance, that the winds were the sons of the giant Typhus, who was chained and unchained at will by Helios, and the polytheistic Greeks accepted it along with Hazad. Why should not they, since the monotheistic Jews have the same beliefs with other names for their dramatis personae? And since Christians believe in the same to this day, the Hazad Alois Borealis were named Kadam, Taizvan, Darian, and Rucha Hijan by chosen people of Israel. What is then the fundamental difference? While the Hellenes were taught that Helios tied and untied the winds, the Jews believed as fervently that their Lord God, with smoke coming out of his nostrils and fire of his mouth, rode upon a cherub and did fly. Same. And was seen upon the wings of the wind. Sorry for anybody who's of nature of that sort. My parents were. But there's a lot of documentation out there that says otherwise. Why I'm saying what I'm saying, because that really does sound like the devil. Or Draco, one or the other. I'm just giving you my opinion. You don't have to take it. Because I can already feel intentions even before this video is put out. The expressions of the two nations are either both figures of speech or both superstitions. We think they are neither, but only arise from a keen sense of oneness with nature and a perception of the mysterious and the intelligent behind every natural phenomenon, which the moderns no longer possess. Nor was it superstitious in the Greek pagans to listen to the oracle of Delphi, when at the approach of the feet of Xerxes, that the oracle advised them to sacrifice to the winds, if the same has to be regarded as divine worship in the Israelites, who sacrificed as often to the wind and fire, especially to the latter element. Do they not say their God is consuming fire, who appeared generally as fire and encompassed by fire? And did not Elijah seek for him the Lord in the great strong wind and in the earthquake? Do not the Christians repeat the same after them? Do not they moreover sacrifice to this day to the same God of wind and fire? Wind and water, sorry. Sacrifice. What religion should you be sacrificing anything to? Just saying. They do, because special prayers for rain, dry weather, trade winds, and the calming of storms on the seas exist to this hour in the prayer books of the three Christian churches, and the several hundred sects of the Protestant religion are for them to their God upon every threat of calamity. The fact that they are no more answered by Jehovah than they were probably by Jupiter does not alter the fact of these prayers being addressed to the power of powers supposed to rule over the elements, or of these powers being identical in paganism and Christianity. Or have we to believe that such prayers are crass idolatry and absurd superstition, only when addressed by a pagan to his idol, and that the same superstition is suddenly transformed into praiseworthy piety and religion whenever the name of the celestial addressee is changed. But the tree is known by its fruit, and the fruit of the Christian tree begin no better than that of the tree of the paganism. Why should the former command more reverence than the latter? Council of Nicaea. That's why. Thus, when we are told by the Chevalier Drac, a converted Jew, and the Marquis de Marville, a Roman Catholic fanatic of the French aristocracy, that in Hebrew lightning is a synonym of fury and is always handled by an evil spirit, that Jupiter Furlog is also called by the Christians Oli. I can't get that out in line. Sorry, guys. And denounced as a soul of lightning, it's demon. We have either to apply the same explanation and definitions to the Lord God of Israel under the same circumstances, or renounce our right of abusing the gods and creeds of other nations. The foregoing statements, emanating as they do from two ardent and learned Roman Catholics, are to say the least dangerous in the presence of the Bible and its prophets. Indeed, if Jupiter, the chief demon of the pagan Greeks, hurled his deadly thunderbolts and lightning at those who excited his wrath, so did the Lord God of Abraham and Jacob. We find in 2 Samuel that the Lord thundered from heaven, and the Most High uttered his voice, and he sent out arrows, thunderbolts, and scattered them, Saul's army, with lightning, and discomforted them. The Athenians are accused of having sacrificed to Boreas, and this demon is charged with having submerged and wrecked 400 ships of the Persian fleet on the rocks of Mount Pelion, and having become so furious that all the magi of Xerxes could hardly counteract it by offering contra sacrifices to Tethys. Very fortunately, no authenticated instance is on record of Christian war showing a like catastrophe on the same scale happening to one Christian fleet owing to the prayers of its enemy, another Christian nation. But this is from no fault of theirs, for each prays as ardently to Jehovah for the destruction of the other, as the Athenians prayed to Boreas. Both restored to neat little piece of black magic, con amor. Such abstinence from divine interference being hardly due to the lack of prayers sent to a common almighty God for mutual destruction, where then shall we draw the line between pagan and Christian? And who can doubt that all the Protestant England would rejoice and offer thanks to the Lord if during some future war 400 ships of the hostile fleet were to be wrecked owing to such holy prayers? What is, then, the difference, we ask again, between a Jupiter, a Boreas, and a Jehovah? No more than this: the crime of one's own next of kin, says of one's father, is always excused and often exalted, whereas the crime of our neighbor's parent is ever gladly punished by hanging. Yet the crime is the same. So far, the blessings of Christianity do not seem to have many and made any appreciable advance of the morals and the convert of pagans. The above is not a defense of pagan gods, nor is it an attack on the Christian deity, nor does it mean belief in either. The writer is quite impartial and rejects the testimony in favor of either, neither praying to, believing in, nor dreading any such personal and anthropomorphic God. The parallels are brought forth simply as one more curious exhibition of the illogical and blind fanaticism of the civilized theologian. For so far, there is not a very great difference between the two beliefs, and there is none in their respective effects upon morality or spiritual nature. The light of Christ shines upon us hideous features of the animal man now as the light of Lucifer did in the days of old. Those unfortunate heathens in their superstition regarded even the elements as something that has comprehension. They still have faith in their idol value, the god, or rather demon, of the wind and air. They firmly believe in the efficiency of their prayers and in the powers of their Brahmins over the winds and storms. The missionary Lavoisier of Cochrane in the journals des Colonnes. In reply to this, we may quote from Luke. And he, Jesus, arose and rebuked the wind and the raging of the water, and they ceased, and there was a calm. And here's another quotation from a prayer book. O Virgin of the Sea, Blessed Mother and Lady of the Waters, stay thy waves, etc., etc. Prayer of the Neapolitan and Provençal sailors. The logical and irreplaceable conclusion arising from the parallels brought forward and the denunciation of the missionary is this: the commands of the Brahmins to their element gods not remaining ineffectual. The power of the Brahmins is thus placed on a par with that of Jesus. Moreover, Astrate is shown not to wit weaker in potency than the Virgin of the Sea of Christian sailors. It is not enough to give a dog a bad name and then hang him. The dog has to be proven guilty. Boreas and Astrate may be devils in theological fancy, but as just remarked, the tree has to be judged by its fruit. And once the Christians are shown as immoral and wicked as the pagans ever were, that benefit has humanity derived from its change in gods of idols. That, however, which God and the Christian saints are justified in doing becomes a crime, if successful, in simple mortals. Sorcery and incantations are regarded as fables now, yet from the day of the institutes of, I don't know if that's an F or a J, Justinian, we'll say that, down to the laws against the witchcraft of England and America, obsolete but not repealed to this day, such incantations, even when only suspected, were punished as criminal. Why punish a chimera? And still we read of Constantine, the emperor, sentencing to death the philosopher Sopatrus for enchanting the winds and thus preventing ships loaded with grain from arriving in time to put an end to famine. Pausanias, when affirming that he saw with his own eyes men who, by simple prayer and incantation, stopped a strong hailstorm, is derided. This was not prevent modern Christian writers from advising prayer during storm and danger and believing in its efficiency. Hoppo and Staldalin, two magicians and sorcerers, were sentenced to death for throwing charms on a fruit and transferring a harvest by magic arts from one field to another. Hardly a century ago, if we can believe Sprenger, the famous writer who vouches for it. Let us close by reminding the reader that without the smallest shadow of superstition, one may believe in the dual nature of every object on earth, in the spiritual and the material, the visible and the invisible nature, and that science virtually proves this while denying its own demonstration. For if, as Sir William Grove has it, the electricity we handle is but the result of ordinary matter affected by something invisible, the ultimate generating power of every force, the one omnipresent influence, then it only becomes natural that one should believe, as the ancients did, namely that every element is dual in its nature. Ethereal fire is the emanation of the Cabra proper. The aerial is but the union correlation of the former with terrestrial fire, and its guidance and application on our earthly plane belongs to Kabar of a lesser dignity. An elemental, perhaps, as an occultist would call it, and the same may be said of every cosmic element. No one will deny that the human being is possessed of various forces: magnetic, sympathetic, antipathetic, nervous, dynamical, occult, mechanical, mental, every kind of force, and that the physical forces are all biological in their essence, seeing that they intermingle with and often merge into those forces that we have named intellectual and moral. The first being the vehicles, so to say, the upadi of the second. No one who does not deny soul in man would hesitate in saying that their presence and commingling are the very essence of our being, that they constitute the ego in man. In fact, these potencies have their physical, mechanical, as well as their nervous, ecstatic, clairaudient, clairvoyant phenomena, which are now regarded and recognized as perfectly natural even by science. Why should men be the only exception in nature, and why cannot even the elements have their vehicles, their vahans, in what we call the physical forces? And why, above all, should such beliefs be called superstition along with the religious of old? On Kwan-Shi-Yin and Kwan-Yin. Okay, hang on. Okay, because I'm totally not getting this.
Avalokiteshvara. Avalokiteshvara. Avalokiteshvara.
That Kwan-Shi-Yin has passed through several transformations, but it is an error to say of him that he is a modern invention of the Northern Buddhists, for under another appellation he has been known from the earliest times. The Secret Doctrine teaches that he who is the first to appear at renovation will be the last to come before reabsorption, pralaya. Thus, the logi of all nations, from the Vedic Vishvakarma of the mysteries down to the savior of the present civilized nations, are the Word who was in the beginning, or the reawakening of the energizing powers of nature, with the one absolute. Born of fire and water, before these became distinct elements, it was the maker, fashioned, or modeler of all things. Without him was not anything made that was made, in whom was life, and the life was the light of men, and who finally may be called, and as he ever has been, the Alpha and the Omega of manifested nature. The great dragon of wisdom is born of fire and water. Into fire and water will all be reabsorbed with him. What is happening in our paradigm right now? As this Bodhisattva is said to assume any form he pleases from the beginning of the Manvarata to its end, and though his special birthday, Memorial Day, is celebrated according to the King Kwan-Ming King Luminous Sutra of Golden Light in the second month of the 19th day, and that of the Maitra Buddha in the first month on the first day, yet the two are one. He will appear as Maitra Buddha, the last of the avatars and Buddhas in the seventh race. This belief and expectation are universal throughout the East, only it is not the Kali Yuga, our present terrifically materialistic age of darkness, the Black Age, that a new savior of humanity can even appear. The Kali Yuga is only in the mystic writings of some French pseudo-occultists. Hence, the ritual in the exoteric worship of this deity was founded on magic. The mantras are all taken from special books kept secret by the priests, and each is said to work a magical effect as the rector or reader produces by simple chanting them, a secret causation which results in immediate effects. Kwan-Shi-Yin is that very long word that I had the phone say, and both are forms of 7 universal principle. While it is highest metaphysical character, this deity is a synthetic aggregation of all the planetary spirits, Daihan Kohans. He is a self-manifested, in short, the son of the Father, crowned with 7 dragons above his statue. There appears the inscription Pu Ti Ki Ling, the universal savior of all living beings. Again, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to butcher anybody's language. Just, again, I took my teeth out again in one of the other readings. Like, of course, the name given in the archaic volume of the stanzas is quite different, but Kwan-Yin is a perfect equivalent. In the temple of Pu-To, the sacred island of the Buddhists in China, Kwan-Shi-Yin is represented floating on a black aquatic bird and pouring on the head of mortals the elixir of life, which as it flows is transformed into one of the chief Daihan Buddhas, the regent of a star called the Star of Salvation. In his 3rd transformation, Kuan-Yin is the informing spirit or genius of water. In China, the Dalai Lama is believed to be an incarnation of Kwan-Shi-Yin, who in his 3rd terrestrial appearance was a Bodhisattva, something close to that. Oh no, I see a fly again. While the Tissue Lama is an incarnation of the Amitabha or Buddha or Gautama. Just in case. Of course, the name given in the archaic volume of the stanzas is quite different, but Kuan-Yin is a perfect equivalent. In the temple of Pu-To, the sacred island of the Buddhists in China, Kuan-Yin is represented floating as a black aquatic bird. And why am I reading this? For those of you in a political movement, the Black Swan could be possibly it may be remarked in passing that a writer must indeed have a diseased imagination to discover phallic worship everywhere. As do the authors of China Revealed and Phallicism. The first discoveries, the old phallic gods represented under 2 evident symbols, the Kwan or Yang, which in the Memorum Viril, and the Kwan or Yin, the Pendenum Mulberry, Latin. Such a rendering seems the more strange as Kwan-Shi-Yin and KwanYin, besides being now the patron deities of the Buddhist ascetics, the yogis of Tibet, are the gods of chastity and are in their esoteric meaning not even that which is implied in the rendering of Mr. Fayus David's Buddhism. The name, that very long one I had my phone say, means the Lord who looks down from on high. Nor is Kwan-Shi-Yin, the spirit of the Buddhas, present in the church, but literally interpreted, it means the Lord that is seen and in one sense. The divine self perceived by self, the human, the Atman, or 7th principle merged in universal perceived by or the object of perception. To Buddha, the 6th principle or divine soul in man, in a strange higher sense, long word equals Kwan-Shi-Yin, referred to as such 7th universal principle in the Logos perceived by the universal Buddha or soul as a synthetic aggregate of the Daihan Buddhas, and is not the spirit of Buddha present in the church, but the omnipresent universal spirit manifested in the temple or cosmos or nature. This orientalistic etymology of Kwan and Yin is on par with that of the yogini, which we are told by Mr. Hargrave Jennings is a Sanskrit word in the dialects pronounced yogi or zogi, and is equivalent to sina and exactly the same as durti or dutika, a sacred prostitute of the temple worshipped as yani or sakti. The books of morality in India direct a faithful wife to shun the society of yogini or females who have been adored as sakti. Amongst the votaries of most licentious description. Nothing should surprise us after this, and it is therefore with hardly a smile that we find another preposterous absurdity quoted about Buddha as being a name which signifies not only the sun as a resource of generation, but also the male organ, quoted by Mr. Hargrave Jennings in Phallicism. Max Mueller, in his false analogies, says that the most celebrated Chinese scholar of his time, Abel Remus, maintains that the three syllables I, he, wei in the 4th chapter of the Tao Te King were meant for Jehovah. And again, Father Amyat, who feels certain that the three persons of the Trinity could be recognized in the same work. And if Abel Remusat, why not Hargrave Jennings? Every scholar will recognize the absurdity of ever seeing in Buddha, the enlightened and the awakened, a phallic symbol. Kwan-Shi-Yin then is the son identical with his father, mystically, or the logos, the world. He is called the dragon of wisdom in stanza 3, as all the logi of all the ancient religious systems are connected with the symbolized by serpents. In Old Egypt, the god Nebakun, he who unites the doubles, astral lighting reuniting by its dual physiological and spiritual potency, the divine human to its purely divine monad, the prototype in heaven or nature, was represented as a serpent on human legs, either with or without arms. It was the emblem of the resurrection of nature, as also of Christ with the Orphites, and of Jehovah as the brazen serpent, healing those who looked at him. The serpent being an emblem of Christ with the Templars also. See the Templar degree in Masonry. The symbol of Kanaf, or the soul of the world, says Champollion, is represented among other forms under that of huge serpent on human legs, this reptile being the emblem of the good genius, and the venerable Agathodim on is sometimes bearded. I'm going to get that word right together because I'm saying it in my brain and it flows great saying it here. The sacred animal is thus identical with the serpent of the Orphites and is figured on a great number of engraved stones called Gnostic or Bastilian gems. This serpent appears with various heads, human and animal, but its gems are always found inscribed with the name Chinobus, thus symbolized and identical with one which, according to Jamblutius and Champollion, was called the first of the celestial gods, the god Hermes, or Mercury with the Greeks, to which god Hermes Trismegistus attributes to the invention of the first initiation of men into magic, and Mercury is Bu, wisdom, enlightenment, or reawakening into the divine science. To close, Kwan-Shi-Yin and Kwan-Yin are the two aspects, male and female, of the same principle in cosmos, nature, and man, of divine wisdom and intelligence. They are the Christos Sophia of the mystic and Gnostics, the Logos, and its Sakti. In their longing for the expression of some mysteries, never to be wholly comprehended by the profane, the ancient, knowing that nothing could be preserved in human memory without some outward symbol, has chosen to us often ridiculous images of the Kwan-Yins to remind man of his origin and inner nature. To the impartial, however, the Madonnas and the Christ in white kid gloves must appear far more absurd than the Kwan-Shi-Yin and Kwan-Yin in their dragon garb. The subjective can hardly be expressed by the objective. Therefore, since the symbolic formula attempts to characterize that which is above scientific reasoning and as often far beyond our intellects, it must need to go beyond the intellect in some shape or another, or else it will fade out from human remembrance. Next time, Book 1, Part 3, Addenda, Science and the Secret Doctrine Contrasted. Well, we'll save that for next time. Goodness, goodness, goodness. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I like this second part of it makes sense. There's so much to her work. It's like you need to study all the components. It's just like Schopenhauer, like when he writes, he quotes so many other people that you have to read those other books before you can even comprehend what the hell he's talking about. And especially his second volume of the Will and Representation, you're just like, what the hell is he talking about? I don't know. I have to go now read all these other philosophers to grasp what he's saying. And it's a very similar taste here, but her work is still very vital and important in distinguishing symbolism and the allegories and craziness. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Please like, please share, please subscribe. And I want to thank everybody sincerely for doing that for me on this channel. I really, really, truly appreciate it. Thank you for some of those who have been donating, who has been helping me. I have yet to find a job. I'm probably going to have to go retail and get a job because I am trying to pump out artwork like crazy and be creative so that I can eventually open up a store to sell my artwork. It's becoming a challenge, to say the least. But I want to thank everybody regardless of watching, because wisdom is amazing and these books are incredible. Please be safe, be seen, sending light, love, shielding, and protection to each and every one of you. Please be safe. It is Labor Day weekend. I hope all of you are enjoying if you have off. But regardless, if you don't, please be safe, be seen, especially now in our times. Things are going to get crazier and crazier, and the energies are just shifting even more. So just be conscientious of the thoughts that are popping up in your head and be an alchemist and transmute things that are of the negative polarity. Until next time, guys. See you on the next one. Bye.